Alright, hi guys, how's it going? Um, are people able to hear the fireplace? For some reason I cannot. Is it too loud or is it alright? Okay, cool. It's supposed to be quiet. I don't want it to be too overwhelming because sometimes if it's too loud it can cause headaches. So I just want it to be enough of a background ambiance type thing. So, um, might as well just go ahead and jump into I was reading the Divine Comedy and then my teeth started hurting again, so I had to go get 2 more root canals. Yay! Um, well, I mean, not yay. It kind of sucks. So, um, had to get it done. Yeah, I've had 5 now. Woo! Um, I would have started reading last week, but we couldn't get the crowns on. I was still having too much swelling and too much sensitivity. So, yeah, pain. I know. But I mean, once they kill the nerve, the pain's gone. So there is that. But yeah. So 5 down, 2 more to go. Not looking forward to it. But anyway, so you guys are here to hear me continue the Divine Comedy. We are on Canto 11, so technically it's chapter 11, and we have been reading into Inferno, where Dante has gotten down into the first few layers. Um, and then he's also been spending time talking to various people on, let's see, which layer are we on? He's spending a lot of time on this layer. Fourth circle. Alright. Apparently he has been spending a lot of time on the fourth circle. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and start with Canto 11, The Broken Rocks. Pope Anastasius, General Description of the Inferno and its Divisions. Upon the margin of a lofty bank, which great rocks broken in a circle made, we came upon still more cruel throng. And there, by reason of the horrible excess of stench the deep abyss throws out, we drew ourselves aside behind the cover of a great tomb whereon I saw a writing, which said, Pope Anastasius I hold, whom out of the right way Photinus drew. Slow it behoveth our descent to be, so that the sense be first a little used to the sad blast, and then we shall not heed it. The master thus, and unto him I said, Some compensation find, that the time pass not idly, and he, thou seest, I think of that. My son, upon the inside of these rocks, began he then to say, are 3 small circles, from grade to grade, like those which thou art leaving. They all are full of spirits maledict, but that hereafter sight alone suffice thee. Hear how and wherefore they are constraint. Of every malice that wins hate in heaven, injury is the end, and all such end, either by force or fraud, afflicteth others. But because fraud is man's peculiar vice, more it displeases God, and so stand lowest, the fraudulent, the greater dole assails them. All the first circle of the violent is, but since force may be used against three persons, in 3 rounds 'tis divided and constructed. To God, to ourselves, and to our neighbours can we use force. I say on them, and on their things, as thou shalt hear with reason manifest. A death by violence, and painful wounds, are to our neighbour given, and in his substance ruin and arson, and injurious levies, whence homicides, and he who smites unjustly, marauders and freebooters, the first round tormenteth all in companies diverse. Man may lay violent hands upon himself, and his own goods, and therefore in the second round must perforce without avail repent. Whoever of your world deprives himself, who games and dissipates his property, and weepeth there where he should be jocund be. Violence can be done the deity, in heart denying and blaspheming him, and by disdaining nature and her bounty. And for this reason doth the smallest round seal with its signet Sodom and Caphors, and who, disdaining God, speaks from the heart. Fraud, wherewithal is every conscience strung, a man may practise upon him who trusts, and him who doth no confidence in verse. This latter mode, it would appear, dissevers only the bond of love which nature makes, whereforein within the second circle nestles hypocrisy, flattery, and who deals in magic, falsification, theft, and simony, panderers and barraters, and the like filth. By the other mode, forgotten is that love which nature makes, and what is after added, from which there is a special faith engendered. Hence in the smallest circle, where the point is of the universe, upon which Dis is seated, whoever betrays for ever is consumed. And I, my master, clear enough proceeds, thy reasoning, and full well distinguishes this cavern and the people who possess it. But tell me, those within the fat lagoon, whom the wind drives, and whom the rain doth beat, and who encounter with such bitter tongues, wherefore are they inside the Red City not punished, if God has them in his wrath? Excuse me. And if he has not, wherefore in such fashion? And unto me he said, why wanders so thine intellect from that which is wont? Or soothe thy mind where is elsewhere looking? Hast thou no recollection of those words with which thine ethics thoroughly discusses the dispositions thee that heaven abides not, incontinence and malice and insane bestiality, and how incontinence lest God offendeth and lest blame attracts? If thou regardest this conclusion well, and to thy mind recallest who they are, that outside are undergoing penance, clearly wilt thou perceive them from these felons they separated are, and why less wroth justice divine doth smite them with its hammer. O Sun, that healest all distemper vision, thou dost content me so, when thou resolvest, that doubting pleases me no less than knowing. Once more a little backward turn thee, said I, there where thou sayest that usury offends, goodness divine, and disengage the knot. Philosophy, he said, to him who heeds it, noteth not only in one place alone, after what manner nature takes her course, from intellect divine, and from its art, and if thy physics carefully thou notest, after not many pages shall thou find, that this your art, as far as possible, follows as the principle doth the master, so that your art is, as it were, God's grandchild. From these two, if thou bringest to thy mind Genesis at the beginning, it behooves mankind to gain their life and to advance. And since the usurer takes another way, nature herself, and in her follower, disdains he, for elsewhere he puts his hope. But follow, now, as I would fain go on, for quivering are the fishes on the horizon, and the wane wholly over Caris lies, and far beyond we descend the crag. Canto 12. The Minotaur, the seventh circle, the violent, the river Phlanganthon, the violent against their neighbors, the centaurs, tyrants. The place where to descend the bank we came was alpine, and from what was there, moreover, of such a kind that every eye would shun it. Such as that ruin is which in the flank smote on this side of Trent and Adige, either by earthquake or by failing astray. For from the mountain's top, from which it moved, unto the plain the cliff is shattered so, some path 'twould give him who was above, even such was the descent of the ravine, and on the border of the broken chasm, the infamy of Crete was stretched along, who was conceived in the fictitious cow, and when he us beheld, he bit himself, even as one whom anger racks within. My sage toward him shouted, Peradventure, thou thinkest that here may be the Duke of Athens, who in the world above brought death to thee? Get thee gone, beast, for this one cometh not, instructed by thy sister, but he comes in order to behold your punishments. As is that bull who breaks loose at the moment in which he has received the mortal blow, who cannot walk, but staggers here and there. The Minotaur beheld, I do the like, and he, the wary, cried, Run to the passage, while he wroth. 'Tis well thou shouldest descend. Thus down we took our way, o'er the discharge of stones, which oftentimes did move themselves beneath my feet from the unwonted burden. Thoughtful I went, and he said, Thou art thinking, perhaps upon this ruin which is guarded by the brute anger which just now I quenched. Now I will have thee know, the other time I here descended to the nether hell, this precipice had not yet fallen down. But truly, if I will discern a little, before his coming, who the mighty spoil bore off from Dis in the supernal circle, upon all sides the deep and loathsome valley trembled so that I thought the universe was thrilled with love, by which there are who think the world oftentimes converted into chaos, and at the moment his primeval crag, both here and elsewhere, made such overthrow. But fix thine eyes below, for draweth near the river of blood, within which boiling is whoever by violence doth injure others. O blind cupidity, O wrath insane, that spurs us onward, so in our short life, and in the eternal, that so badly steeps us. I saw an ample moat bent like a bow, as one which all the plain encompasses, comfortable to what my guide had said, and between this and the embankment's foot, centaurs in file were running, armed with arrows, as in the world they used to chase, as in the world they used the chase to follow. Beholding us descend, each one stood still, and from the squadron 3 detached themselves, with bows and arrows in advance selected. And from afar one cried, Unto what torment come ye, who down the hillside are descending? Tell us from there, if not, I draw the bow. My master said, Our answer we will make to Charon, near you there, in evil hour, that will of thine was evermore so hasty. Then touched he me, and said, This one is Nessus, who perished from the lovely Dejanira, or Dejanira, and for himself did vengeance take. I apologize, I'm butchering names. I am having a little difficulty reading them. And he in the midst, who at his breast is grazing, is the great Charon, who brought up Achilles, that other Pholus is, who was so wrathful. Thousands and thousands go about the moat, shooting with shafts whatever soul emerges out of the blood more than his crime allows. Near we approached unto these monsters fleet. Charon an arrow took, and with the notch backward upon his jaws he put his beard. After he had uncovered his great mouth, he said to his companions, Are you ware that he behind moveth where'er he touches? Thus are not wont to do the fleet of dead men. And my good guide, who now was at his breast, where the two natures are together joined, replied, Indeed he lives, and thus alone me it behooves to show him the dark valley. Necessity, and not delight, impels us. Someone withdrew from singing Hallelujah, who unto me committed this new office. No thief is he, nor I a thievish spirit, but by that virtue, though, which I am moving. Oh, cool, Jenga. Yeah, but just got a notification my friend Jenga is streaming right now. But by the But by that virtue, the which I am moving, my steps along this savage thoroughfare, give us some one of thine to be with us, and who may show us where to pass the ford, and who may carry this one on his back, for 'tis no spirit that can walk the air. Upon his right breast Charon wheeled about, and said to Nessus, Turn and do thou guide them, and warn aside if another band meet you. We with our faithful escort onward moved, along the brink of the vermilion boiling, wherein the boiled were uttering loud laments. People I saw within up to the eyebrows, and the great centaur said, Tyrants are these, who dealt in bloodshed and in pillaging. Here they lament their pitiless mischiefs. Here is Alexander, the fierce Dionysus, who upon Sicily brought dolorous years. That forehead there, which has the hair so black, is Azalin, and the other, who is blonde, Abizo, who is of Este, who, in truth, up in the world, was by his stepson slain. Then turned I to the poet, and he said, Now he be first to thee, and second I. A little farther on the centaur stopped, above a folk who far down as the throat seemed from the boiling steam to issue forth. A shade he showed us on one side alone, saying, He cleft asunder in God's bosom the heart that still upon the Thames is honored. Then people saw I, who from the river lifted their heads, and also all the chest, and many among these I recognized. Thus ever more and more grew shallower that blood, so that the fleet alone it covered, and there across the moat our passage was. Even as thou here upon this side beholdest the boiling steam that aye diminishes, the centaur said, I wish thee to believe that on this other more than declines its bed until it reunites itself, where it behoveth tyranny to groan. Justice divine upon this side is goading that Attila, who was a scourge on the earth, and Pyrrhus and Sextus, and forever milks, the tears which the boiling it unseals, in Reiner de Corneto and Reiner Pazzo, who made upon the highlands so much war. Then back he turned and passed again the ford. Canto 13. The wood of thorns, the harpies, the violent against themselves, suicides. Not yet had Nessus reached the other side, when we put ourselves within a wood that was not marked by any path whatever. Not foliage green, but of a dusky color, not branches smooth, but gnarled and intertangled. Not apple trees were there, but thorns with poison. Such tangled thickets have not, nor so dense, those savage wild beasts that in hatred hold, twixt Cecina and Cornetto, the tilled places. There do the hideous harpies make their nests, who chase the Trojans from the Strophades, with sad announcement of impending doom. Broad wings have they, the necks and human faces, and feet with claws, and their great bellies fledged, they make laments upon the wanderer's trees. And the good master, ere thou enter further, know that thou art within a second round. Thus he began to say, and shalt be till thou comest out upon the horrible sand. Therefore look well round, and thou shalt see things that will credence give unto my speech. I heard on all sides lamentations uttered, and person none beheld I who might make them, whence utterly bewildered I stood still. I think he thought that I perhaps might think, so many voices issued throughout those trunks, from people who concealed themselves from us. Therefore the master said, if thou break off some little spray from any of these trees, excuse me, the thoughts thou hast will wholly be made vain. Then stretched I forth my hand a little forward, and plucked a branchlet off of the great thorn, and the trunk cried, why dost thou mangle me? After it had become embrowned with blood, it recommenced its cry, why dost thou rend me? Hast thou no spirit of pity whatsoever? Men once we were, and now are changed into trees. Indeed, thy hand should be more pitiful, even if the souls of serpents we had been. As out of a green brand that is on fire, at one of the ends, and from the other drips and hisses with the wind that is escaping, so from the splinter issued forth together both words and blood, whereat I let the tip fall, and stood like a man who is afraid. Had he been able sooner to believe, my sage made answer, O thou wounded soul, what only in my verses he has seen. Not upon thee had he stretched forth his hand, whereas the thing incredible has caused me to put him to an act which grieveth me. But telling him who thou wast, so that by way of some amends thy fame he may refresh up in the world to which he can return. And the trunk said, so thy sweet words allure me, I cannot silent be, and ye be vexed not, that I a little to discourse am tempted. I am the one who both keys had in keeping of Frederick's heart, and turned them to and fro, so softly in unlocking and in locking, that from his secrets most men I withheld. Fidelity I bore the glorious office, so great I lost thereby my sleep and pulses. The courtesan who never from the dwelling of Caesar turned aside her strumpet eyes, death universal, and the vice of courts, inflamed against me all the other minds, and they inflamed did so inflame Augustus, that my glad honors turned to dismal mournings. My spirit in disdainful exultation, thinking of dying to escape disdain, made me unjust against myself, then just. I, by the roots unwonted of this wood, do swear to you that never broke I faith unto my Lord, who was so worthy of honor. And to the world, if one of you return, let him my memory comfort, which is lying still prostrate from the blow that envy dealt it. Waited a while, and then, since he is silent, the poet said to me, lose not the time, but speak, and question him, if more may please thee. Whence I to him, do thou again inquire concerning what thou thinkest will satisfy me, for I cannot, such pity is in my heart. Therefore he recommenced, so many the men do for thee freely what thy speech implores. Spirit incarnate, again be pleased to tell us in what way the soul is bound within these knots, and tell us, if thou canst, if any from such members error is freed. Then blew the trunk amain, and afterward the wind was into such a voice converted, with brevity shall be replied to you. When the exasperated soul abandons the body whence it rent itself away, Minos consigns it to the seventh abyss. It falls into the forest, and no part is chosen for it. But when fortune hurls it, there like a grain of sprout it germinates. It springs a sapling and a forest tree. The harpies, feeding then upon its leaves, do pain create, and for the pain an outlet. Like others, for our spoils shall we return, but not that any one may them revest, for 'tis not just to have what one casts off. Here we shall drag them, and along the dismal forest our bodies shall suspended be, each to the thorn of its molested shade. We were attentive still unto the trunk, thinking that more it might yet wish to tell us, when by a tumult we were overtaken. In the same way as he is who perceives the boar and chase approaching to his stand, who hears the crashing of the beasts and branches, and to behold, upon our left-hand side, naked and scratched, fleeing so furiously, that of the forest every fan they broke. He who was in advance, now help, death, help, and the other one, who seemed to lag too much, was shouting, Lano, we're not so alert. Those legs of thine, at joustings of the topo. And then, perchance, because his breath was failing, he grouped himself together with a bush. Behind them was the forest, full of black she-mastiffs, ravenous and swift of foot, as greyhounds who are issuing from the chain. On him, who had crouched down, they set their teeth, and him they lacerated piece by piece, thereafter bore away those aching members. Thereat my escort took me by the hand, and led me to the bush that all in vain was weeping from its bloody lacerations. O Jacopo, it said, of Sant' Andrea, what helped it thee of me to make a screen? What blame have I in thy nefarious life? When near him had the master stayed his steps, he said, who wast thou, that through wounds so many art blowing out with blood thy dolorous speech? And he to us, O souls that hither come to look upon the shameful massacre that has so rent away from me my leaves, gather them beneath the dismal bush, I of the city was which to the Baptist changed its first patron. Wherefore he for this forever with his art will make it sad. And were it not that on the pass of Arno some glimpses of him are remaining still, those citizens who afterwards rebuilt it upon the ashes left by Attila, in vain had caused their labor to be done. Of my own house I made myself a gibbet. Canto 14. The Sand Waste and the Rain of Fire. Because the charity of my native place constrained me, gathered I the sacred leaves, or scattered leaves, and gave them back to him, who now was hoarse. Then came we to the confine, where disparted a second round from the third, and where a horrible form of justice is beheld. Clearly to manifest these novel things, I say that we arrive upon a plain, which is from its bed rejecteth every plant. The dolorous forest is a garland to it, all round about, as the sad moat to that. There close upon the edge we strayed our feet. The soil was of an acrid and thick sand, not of another fashion made than that which by the feet of Cato once was pressed. Vengeance of God, O how much oughtest thou by each one to be dreaded, who doth read that which was manifest unto mine eyes. Of naked souls beheld I many herds, who all were weeping very miserably, and all over them seemed set a law diverse. Supine upon the ground some folk were lying, and some were sitting, all drawn up together. Others went about continually. Those who were going round were far the more, and those who were less who lay down into their torment, but had their tongues more loosened to lamentation. O'er all the sand waste, with a gradual fall, were raining down dilated flakes of fire, as of snow on Alp without a wind. As Alexander, in those torrid parts of India, beheld upon his host flames fall unbroken till they reach the ground, whence he provided with his phalanxes to trample down the soil, because the vapor better extinguished was while it was single. Thus descended the eternal heat, whereby the sand was set on fire, like tinder beneath the steel, for doubling of the dole. Without repose forever was the dance of miserable hands, now there, now here, shaking away off them the fresh gleeds. Master, began I, thou who overcomest all things except the demons dire, that issued against us at the entrance of the gate. Who is that mighty one who seems to heed not the fire, and lieth lowering and disdainful, so that the rain seems not to ripen him? And he himself, who has become aware that I was questioning my guide about him, cried, such as I was living, am I dead. If Jove should weary out his smith, from whom he seized in anger the sharp thunderbolt, wherewithin upon the last day I was smitten, and if he wearied out by turns the others of Mongibolo at the swarthy forge, vociferating, help, good Vulcan, help, even as he did there at the fight of Phlegra, he shot his bolts at me with all his might. He would not have thereby a joyous vengeance. Then did my leader speak with such great force that I had never heard him speak so loud. O Capanus, in that is not extinguished. Thine arrogance thou punished art the more. Not any torment, saving thine own rage, would be unto thy fury pain complete. Honey. That girl. You're my mod. Okay. Then he turned round to me with better lip, saying, one of the 7 kings was he, who Thebes besieged and held, and seemed to hold. God in disdain, and little seems to prize him. But, as I said to him, his own despites are for his beast and fittest ornaments. Sorry. Now follow me, and mind thou do not place as yet thy feet upon the burning sand, but always keep them close unto the wood. Speaking no words, we came to where where there gushes forth from the wood a little rivulet, whose redness makes my hair stand still on end. As from the Bullacame springs, the brooklet the sinful women later share among them, so downward through the sand it went its way. The bottom of it, and both sloping banks, were made of stone, and the margins at the side, whence I perceived that there the passage was. In all the rest which I have shown to thee, since we have entered in within the gate, those threshold unto no one is denied. Nothing has been discovered by thine eyes, so notable as is the present river, which all the little flames above it quenches. These words were of my leader, whence I prayed him, that he would give me largesse of the food, for which he had given me largesse of desire. In the mid-sea there sits a waste land, said he thereafterward, whose name is Crete, under whose king the world of old is chased. There is a mountain there, that once was glad, with waters and with leaves, which was called Ida. Now 'tis deserted, is a thing worn out. Rhea once chose it for the faithful cradle of her own son, and to conceal him better. Whene'er he cried, she there had clamours made. A grand old man stands in the mount erect, who holds his shoulders turned towards Demeta, and looks at Rome as if it were his mirror. His head is fashioned of refined gold, and of pure silver are the arms and breasts, that he is brass for as far down as the fork. From the point downward all is chosen iron, save at the right foot of is of gilt baked clay, and more he stands on that than on the other. Each part, except the gold, is by a fissure, asunder cleft, that dripping is with tears, which gathered together perforate that cavern. From rock to rock they fall into this valley. Akron, Styx, and Phlegethon they form, then downward go along this narrow sluice. Upon that point where no more descending, they form Cocytus. What that pool may be, thou shalt behold, so here 'tis not narrated. And I to him, if so the present runnel doth take its rise in this way from our world, why only on this verge appears it to us? And he to me, thou knowest the place is round, and notwithstanding thou hast journeyed far, so to the left descending to the bottom. Thou hast not yet through all the circle turned, therefore if something new appear to us, it should not bring amazement to thy face. And I again, Master, where shall be found Lethe and Phlegethon? For of one thou'rt silent, and sayest the other of this reign is made. In all thy questions truly thou dost please me, replied he, but the boiling of the red water might well solve one of them thou makest. Thou shalt see Lethe, but outside this moat, there where the souls repair to lave themselves, where when sin we repented of has been removed. Then said he, it is time now to abandon the wood. Take heed that thou come after me. Away the margins make that are not burning, and over them all vapors are extinguished. Canto 15. The Violent Against Nature. Now bears us onward one of the hard margins, and so the booklet's mist o'ershowers it. From fire it saves the water, and the dikes, even as the Flemings twixt Cadsand and Bruges fearing the flood that toward them hurled itself, their bulwarks built to put the sea to flight. And as the Paduans along the Brenta to guard their villas and their villages, or ever Chiarentana feel the heat, in such similitude that those had been made, albeit not so lofty nor so thick. Whoever he might be, the master made them. Now were we from the forest so remote, I could not have discovered where it was, even if backwards I had turned myself, when we a company of souls encountered, who came beside the dike, and every one gazed at us, as at evening we are wont to eye each other under a new moon, and so towards us sharpened they their brows, as an old tailor at the needle's eye. Thus scrutinized by such a family, by someone I was recognized, who seized my garment's hem and cried out, "What a marvel!" And I, when he stretched forth his arm to me, on his baked aspect fastened so mine eyes, that the scorched encounterance prevented not his recognition by my intellect, and bowing down my face unto his own, I made reply, "Are you here, Ser Brunetto?" And he, "May it not displease thee, O my son, if a brief space with thee, Brunetto Latini, backward return, and let the trail go on." I said to him, "With all my power I ask it, and if you wish me to sit down with you, I will, if you please, for I go with him." "O son," he said, "whoever of this herd a moment stops, lies then 100 years, nor fans himself when smitteneth him the fire. Therefore go on, I at thy skirts will come, and afterward will I rejoin my band, which goes lamenting its eternal doom." I did not dare to go down from the road, level to walk with him, but my head bowed, I held as one who goeth reverently. And he began, "What fortitude or what fate before the last day laideth thee down here, and who is this that showeth thee the way?" "Up there above us, in the life serene," I answered him. "I lost me in a valley, or ever yet my age had been completed. But yestermorn I turned my back upon it. This one appeared to me, returning thither, and homeward leadeth me along this road. And he to me, if thou thy star do follow, thou canst not fail thee of a glorious port, if well I judged in the life beautiful. And if I had not died so prematurely, seeing heaven thus benignant unto thee, I would have given thee comfort in the work, but the ungrateful and malignant people, which of old time from vessel descended, and smack still of the mountain and the granite, will make itself for thine good deeds thy foe, and in its right, for among the crab sorbs it ill befits the sweet fig to bear fruit. Old rumor in the world proclaims them blind, a people avaricious, envious, proud. Take heed of their customs, thou do cleanse thee. Thy fortune so much honor doth reserve thee. One party and the other shall be hungry for thee, but far from goat shall be the grass. Their litter let the beasts of Thessal make of themselves, not let them touch the plant, if any still upon their dunghill rise, in which many yet revive, then consecrated, seed of those Romans who remained there when the nest of such great malice it became. If my entreaty wholly were fulfilled, replied I to him, not yet would you be in banishment from human nature placed. For in my mind is fixed, and touches now, my heart the dear good paternal image of you, when in the world, from hour to hour, you taught me how a man become eternal, and how much I am grateful while I live, behooves that in my language be discerned. What you narrate of my career I write, and keep it be glossed with other text, by a lady who can do it if I reach her. This much I will have manifest to you, provided that my conscience do not chide me, for whosoever fortune I am ready. Such hansel is not new unto mine ears, therefore let fortune turn her wheel around, and may it please her, and the churl his mattock. My master thereupon on his right cheek did backward turn himself, and look at me, then said, he listeneth well, who noteth it. Nor speaking less on that account, I go with Sir Brunetto, and I ask who are his most known and most eminent companions. And he to me, to know of some is well, of others it were laudable to be silent, for short would be the time for so much speech. Know them in sum, that all of them were clerks, and men of letters great and of great fame, in the world tainted with the selfsame sin. Procyon goes yonder with that wretched crowd, and Francis of Accorso, and thou hadst seen there, if thou hadst had a hankering for such scuff, that one who by the servant of the servants from Arno was transferred to the Baciglino, where he was left his sin-excited nerves. More would I say, but coming and discoursing can be no longer, for that I behold new smoke uprising yonder from the sand. A people comes with whom I may not be. Commended unto thee be my tesoro, in which I still live, and no more I ask. Then he turned around, and seemed to be of those who at Verona run for the green mantle across the plain, and seemed to be among them, the one who wins, and not the one who loses. Found a bot, hun? Canto 16. Cataract of the River of Blood. Now where I was, now was I where heard the reverberation of water falling into the next round, like to the humming which the beehives make, when shadows there together started forth, running from out a company that passed beneath the rain of the sharp martyrdom. Towards us came they, and each one cried out, Stop thou, for by thy garb to us thou seemest to be some one of our depraved city. Ah me, what wounds I saw upon their limbs, recent and ancient by the flames burnt in. It pains me still but to remember it. Unto their cries my teacher paused attentive. He turned his face towards me, and, Now wait, he said, to these we should be courteous. And if it were not for the fire that darts, the nature of this region, I should say, that haste were more becoming thee than them. As soon as we stood still, they recommenced the old refrain, and when they overtook us, formed of themselves a wheel, all three of them, as champions stripped of oil are wont to do, watching for their advantage and their hold, before they come to blows and thrusts between them. Thus wheeling round, did every one of his visage direct to me, so that in opposite wise his neck and feet continual journey make, and If the misery of this soft place bring in disdain ourselves and our entreaties, began one, and our aspect black and blistered, let the renown of us thy mind incline to tell us who thou art, who thus securely thy living feet dost move along through hell. He in whose footprints thou dost see me treading, naked and skinless, though he now may go, was of a greater rank than thou dost think. He was the grandson of the good Galdrada. His name was Guido Guerra, and in life much did he with his wisdom and his sword. The other, who close to me treads the sand, Tegiaio Aldo Brandy is, whose fame above there in the world should welcome be, and I, who with them on the cross am placed, Jacopo Rusticusi was, and truly my savage wife, more than aught else doth harm me. Could I have been protected from the fire below, I should have been thrown myself among them, and think the teacher would have suffered it. But as I should have burned and baked myself, my terror overmastered my goodwill, which made me greedy of embracing them. Then I began, sorrow and not disdain did your condition fix within me so, that tardily it wholly is stripped off. As soon as this my lord said unto me, words on account of which I thought within me, that people such as you are were approaching. I of your city am, and evermore your labors and your honorable names I with affection have retraced and heard. I leave the Gaul and go for the sweet fruits promised to me by my vivacious leader, and to the centre first I needs must plunge. So may the soul for a long while conduct those limbs of thine, did he make answer then, and so may thy renown shine after thee. Valor and courtesy say if they dwell within our city as they used to do, or if they wholly have gone out of it. For Guglielmo Bosir, who is in torment with us of late, and goes there with his comrades, doth greatly mortify us with his words. The new inhabitants and the sudden gains, pride and extravagance have in three engendered Florence, so that thou weepest their threat already. In this wise I exclaimed with face uplifted, and the three taking that for my reply, looked at each other as one looks at truth. If other times so little it doth cost thee, replied they all, to satisfy another, happy art thou, thus speaking at thy will. Therefore, if thou escape from these dark places, and come to re-behold the beauteous stars, when it shall pleasure thee to say, I was, see that thou speak of us unto the people. They then broke up the wheel, and in their flight it seemed as if their agile legs were wings. Not an amen could possibly be said, so rapidly as they had disappeared, wherefore the master deemed best to depart. I followed him, and little had we gone, before the sound of water was so near us, that speaking we should hardly have been heard, even as the stream which holdeth its own course, the first from Monte Veso toward the east, upon the left-hand slope of Apennine, which is above called Aquacetta, ere it down descendeth into its low bed, and at Forli is vacant of that name, reverberates there above San Veneto, from Alps by falling at a single leap, where for 1,000 there were room enough. Thus downward from a bank precipice, we found resounding that the dark-tinted water, so that it soon the ear would have offended, had a cord around about me girt, and therewithal I whilom had designed to take the panther with the painted skin. After I this had all from me unloosened, as my conductor had commanded me, I reached it to him, gathered up and coiled, where he turned himself to the right side, and at a little distance from the verge, he cast it down into the deep abyss. It must needs be some novelty respond, I said within myself, to the new signal the master with his eye is following so. Ah me, how very cautious men should be with those who not alone behold the act, but with their wisdom look into the thoughts. He said to me, soon there will be upwind come, what I await and what thy thought is dreaming must soon reveal itself unto thy sight. Aye, to that truth which has the face of falsehood, a man should close his lips as far as may be, because without his fault it causes shame. But here I cannot, and reader, by the notes of this my comedy, to thee I swear, so may they not be void of lasting favour. Athwart that dense and darksome atmosphere, I saw a figure swimming upward come, marvellous unto the every steadfast heart, even as he returns who goeth down, sometimes to clear an anchor which was grappled, reef or aught else that in the sea is hidden, who upward stretches and draw his feet. Canto 17. Geron, the violent against art, usurpers, descent into the abyss of Malbolg. Behold the monster with the pointed tail, who cleaves the hills and breaketh walls and weapons. Behold him who infecteth all the world. Thus unto me my guide began to say, and beckoned him that he should come to shore, near to the confine of the trodden marble. And that uncleanly image of deceit came up and thrust ashore its head and bust, but on the boulder did not drag its tail. The face was as the face of a just man, its semblance outwardly was so benign, and of a serpent all the trunk beside. 2 paws it had, hairy unto the armpits. The back and breast of both the sides it had depicted o'er with nooses and with shields, with colours more groundwork or broidery. Never in cloth did Tartars make, nor Turks, nor were such tissues by Arachne laid, as sometimes wherries lie upon the shore, that part are in the water, part on land, and as among the guzzling Germans there, the beaver plants himself to wage his war, so the vile monster lay upon the border, which is of stone, and shutteth in the sand. His tail is wholly quivering in the void, contouring upwards the envenomed fork, that in the guise of a scorpion armed its point. The guard said, now perforce must turn aside our way a little, even to that beast, malevolent that yonder coucheth him. We therefore on the right side descended, and made 10 steps upon the outer verge, completely to avoid the sand and flame. And after we were come up to him, I see a little farther up on the sand a people sitting near the hollow place. Then said to me the master, so that full experience of this round thou bear away. Now go and see what their condition is. There let thy conversation be concise. Till thou returnest, I will speak with him, that he concede to us his stalwart shoulders. Thus farther still upon the outermost head of the seventh circle, all alone, I went where sat the melancholy folk. Out of their eyes was gushed forth their woes. This way, that way, they helped them with their hands, now from the flames, and now from the hot soil. Not otherwise in summer do the dogs, now with the foot, now with the muzzle, when, so by fleas or flies or gadflies, they are bitten. When I had turned mine eyes upon the faces of some on whom the dolorous fire is falling, not one of them I knew, but I perceived that from the neck of each there hung a pouch, which certain colour had, and certain blazon, and whereupon it seems their eyes are feeding. And I gazed round me, come among them. Upon a yellow pouch of azure I saw, that had the face and posture of a lion. Proceeding then the current of my sight, another of them I saw, red as blood, display a goose more white than butter is, and one who with an azure sow and gavied emblems emblazoned with his little pouch of white, said unto me, What dost thou in this moat? Now get thee gone, and since thou'rt still alive, know that a neighbor of mine, Bitiliano. Hey guys, how's it going? Will have his seat here on my left-hand side. A Paduan am I with these Florentines. Full many a time they thunder in mine ears, exclaiming, Come to the sovereign cavalier, he who shall bring the satchel with 3 goats. Then twisted he his mouth, and forth he thrust his tongue like an ox that licks its nose. And fearing lest my longer stay might vex him who had warned me not to tarry long, backward I turned me from those weary souls. I found my guide, who had already mounted upon the back of that wild animal, and said to me, Now be both strong and bold. Now we descend by stairway, such as these. Mount thou in front, for I will be midway, so that the tail may have no power to harm thee. Such as he is who so near the ague of Cortan that his nails are blue already, and trembles all but looking at the shade. Even such became I at those proffered words. But shame in me his menace produces, which marketh servant strong before good master. I seated me upon those monstrous shoulders, I wished to say, and yet the voice came not, as I believed, Take heed that thou embrace me. But he, who other times had rescued me, in other peril, soon as I had mounted, within his arms encircled and sustained me, and said, Now, Garon, bestir thyself. The circle's large, and the descent be little. Think of the novel burden which thou hast. Even as the little vessel shoves from shore, backward, still backward, so he hence withdrew, and when he wholly felt himself afloat, there where his beast had been he turned his tail, and that extended like an eel he moved, and with his paws drew to himself the air. A greater fear I do not think there was. What time abandoned, faint in the reins, whereby the heavens, as still appears, were scorched, nor when the wretched Icarus his flanks felt stripped of feathers by the melting wax, his father crying, An ill way thou taketh. than my own when I perceived myself on all sides in the air and saw extinguished the sight of everything but of the monster. Onward he goeth, swimming slowly, slowly, wheels and descends, but I perceived it only by wind upon my face and from below. I heard already on the right the whirlpool making a horrible crashing under us, whence I thrust out my head with eyes cast downward. Then I was still more fearful of the abyss, because I fires beheld, heard laments, whereat I, trembling, all the closer cling. I saw then, for before I had not seen it, the turning and descending by great horrors that were approaching upon divers sides, as falcon who had long been on the wing, who without seeing either lure or bird, maketh the falconer say, Ah me, thou stoopest, descendeth wary, hence he started swiftly, through 100 circles, and alights far from his master, sullen and disdainful. Even thus did Grairon place us on the bottom, close to the bases of the rough-hewn rock, and being disencumbered of our persons, he sped away as arrow from the string. Danny DeVito ad. I am sorry, eyes. Canto 18. The eighth circle. The fraudulent and the malicious. The first, Bolgia, seducers and panderers. Bendigo, Sikianimiko, Jason. The second, Bolga, flatterers. Alicino, Interminelli, Thesis. Don't say that. I'm hungry now too. Aw. There is a place in hell called Malbolg, where wholly of stone and of an iron color, as is the circle that around it turns, right in the middle of the field malign, where yawns of well wield exceeding wide and deep, of which its place the structure will recount. Round then is that enclosure which remains between the well and foot of the high hard bank, and has distinct in valleys 10 its bottom, as where for the protection of the walls many and many moats surround the castles. The part in which they are a figure forms, just such an image those presented there, and as about such strongholds from their gates unto the outer banks are little bridges. So from the precipice's base did crags project, which intersected dikes and moats, unto the well that truncates and collects them. Within this place, down shaken from the back of Grayon, we found us, and the poet held to the left, and I moved on behind. Upon my right hand I beheld new anguish, new torments, and new wielders of the lash, wherewith the foremost Bolgia was replete. Down at the bottom, where the sinners naked, this side and the middle came facing us, beyond it with us, but with greater steps, even as the Romans for the mighty host, the year of Jubilee upon the bridge, have chosen a mode to pass the people over. For all upon one side, towards the castle, their faces have, and go unto St. Peter's. On the other side they go towards the mountain. This side and that, along the livid stone, beheld I horned demons with great scourges, who cruelly were beating them behind. Ah me, how they made them drift their legs at the first blows, and soothed not any one the second waited for, nor for the third. While I was going on, mine eyes by one encountered were, and straight I said, already, with sight of this one I am not unfed. Therefore I stayed my feet to make him out, and with me the sweet guide came to a stand, and to my goings somewhat back assented, and he, the scourged one, thought to hide himself, lowering his face, but little it availed him. For, said I, thou castest down his eyes. If false are not the features which thou bearest, thou art Vendico Cassianimico. But what doth bring thee to such pungent sauces? And he to me, unwillingly I tell it, but forces me thine utterance distinct, which makes me recollect the ancient world. I was the one who the fair Gisola introduced to grant the wishes of the Marquis, however the shameless story may be told. Not the sole Bolognese am I who weeps here, nay, rather is this place so full of them, that not many tongues today are taught, twixt Reno and Savannah, who say Sipa, and if thereof thou wishest pledge of proof, bring to thy mind our avaricious heart. While speaking in this manner, with his scourge a demon smote him, and said, Get thee gone, pander, and there are no women here for coin. I joined myself again unto my escort. Thereafterward, with footsteps few, we came to where a crag projected from the bank. This very easily did we ascend, and turning to the right along its ridge, for those eternal circles we departed. When we were there, when it is hollowed out, beneath to give a passage to the scourged, the guide said, Wait, and see that on these three strike the vision of those others evil-born, of whom thou hast not yet beheld the faces, because together with us they have gone. From the old bridge we looked upon the train, which towards us came upon the other boulder, and which the scourges in like manner smite. And the good master, without my inquiring, said to me, See that tall one who is coming, and for his pain seems not to shed a tear. Still what a royal aspect he retains, that Jason is, who by his heart and cunning the Colchians of the Ram made destitute. He by the isle of Lemnos passed along, after the daring women pitiless had unto death devoted all their males. There with his tokens and with ornate words did he deceive Hypsipyle, the maiden, who first herself had all the rest deceived. There did he leave her pregnant and forlorn. Such sin unto such punishment condemns him, and also for Medea is vengeance done. With him go those who in such wise deceive, and this sufficient be of the first valley, to know, and those in its jaws it holds. We were already where the narrow path crosses athwart the second dike, and forms of that buttress for another arch. Thence we heard people who were making moan in the next bolga, snorting with their muzzles, and with their palms beating upon themselves. The margins were encrusted with a mold by exhalation from below that sticks there, and with the eyes and nostrils wages war. The bottom is so deep, no place suffices to give us sight of it without ascending. The arch is back, where most the crag impedes. Thither we come, and thence down in the moat, I saw a people smothered in a filth that out of human privies seemed to flow. And whilst below, there where with mine eye I search, I saw one with his head so foul with ordure, it was not clear if he were clerk or layman. He screamed to me, "Wherefore art thou so eager to look at me more than the other foul ones?" And I to him, "Because, if I remember, I have already seen thee with dry hair, and thou art Alessio Intermini of Lucca. Therefore I eye thee more than all the others." And he thereon, belabouring his pumpkin, "The flatteries have submerged me here below, wherewith my tongue was never surfeited." Then said to me by the guide, "See that thou thrust thy visage somewhere further in advance, and with thine eyes thou will the face attain of that uncleanly and dishevelled drab, who there doth scratch himself with filthy nails, and crouches now on foot as standing. Thais the harlot is it, who replied unto her paramour when he said, "Have I great gratitude from thee? Nay, marvellous. And here within let our sight be satisfied." Canto 19. The third Bolgia. Simon X. O Simon Magus, O forlorn disciples, ye who the things of God, which ought to be the brides of holiness, rapaciously, for silver and for gold do prostitute, now it behooves for you the trumpet sound, because in this third Bolgia ye bide. We had already on the following tomb ascended to the portion of the crag, which o'er the middle of the moat hangs plumb. Wisdom supreme, O how great art thou showest, in heaven, in earth, and in evil world, and with what justice doth thy power distribute. I saw upon the sides and on the bottom thy livid stone with perforations filled, all of one size, and every one was round. To me less ample seemed they not, nor greater than those that in my beautiful St. John are fashioned for the place of the baptizers, and one of which, not many years ago, I broke for some one who was drowning in it. Be this in seal all men to undeceive. Out of the mouth of each one there protruded the feet of a transgressor, and the legs up to the calf, the rest within remained. In all of them the souls were both on fire, wherefore the joints so violently quivered, they would have snapped asunder withes and bands, even as the flame of Arctus things is wont to move upon the outer surface only, so likewise was it there from heel to point. Master, who is that one who withers himself more than his other comrades quivering? I said, and whom a redder flame is sucking. And he to me, "If thou wilt have me bear thee down there along the bank which lowest lies, from him thou'lt know his errors and himself." And I, "What pleases thee to me is pleasing. Thou art my lord, and knowest that I depart not from thine desire, and knowest what is not spoken." Straightway upon the fourth dyke we arrived. We turned, and on the left-hand side descended, down to the bottom, full of holes, and a narrow through holes and narrow, and the good master, yet from off his haunch, deposited me not, till the hole he brought me, of him who so lamented with his shanks. "Whoe'er thou art, that standest upside down, doleful soul, implanted like a stake, to say," began I. if thou canst, speak out. I stood even as the friar who is confessing, the false assassin who, when he is fixed, recalls him, so that death may be delayed. And he cry out, Doth thou stand there already? Doth thou stand there already, Boniface? Many years the record lied to me. Art thou so early satiate with that wealth for which thou didst not fear to take by fraud the beautiful lady, and then work her woe? Such I became, as people who are stand, not comprehending what is answered them, as if bemocked, and know not how to answer. And then Virgilius say him straightway, I am not he, I am not he thou thinkest. And I replied, as was imposed on me, whereat the spirit writhed with both his feet, then, sighing, with a voice of lamentation, said to me, Then what wantest thou of me? If who I am thou carest so much to know, that thou on the account hast crossed the bank, know that I vested with the great mantle, and truly was I son of the she-bear, so eager to advance the cubs, that wealth above, and here myself I pocketed. Beneath my head the others are dragged down, who have preceded me in simony, flattered along the fissure of the rock. Below there I shall likewise fall, whenever that one shall come who I believe thou wast, what time the solemn question I proposed. But longer I my feet already toast, and here have been in this way upside down, that he will planted stay with reddened feet. For after him shall come a fouler deed, from towards the west a pastor without law, such as befits to cover him and me. New Jason will he be, of whom we read in Maccabees, and as his king was pliant, so he who governs France shall be to this one. I do not know if I were here too bold, that him I answered only in this matter. I pray thee tell me now how great a treasure our Lord demanded of St. Peter first, before he put the keys into his keeping. Truly he nothing asked but, Follow me. Nor Peter nor the rest asked of Matthias silver or gold, when he by lot was chosen unto the place the guilty soul had lost. Therefore stay here, for thou art justly punished, and keep safeguard o'er the ill-gotten money, which caused thee to be vigilant against Charles. And were it not that still forbids it me, the reverence for the keys superlative, thou hadst in keeping in the gladsome life, I would make use of words more grievous still, because your avarice afflicts the world, trampling the good and lifting the depraved. The evangelist you pastors had in mind, when she who sitteth upon many waters to fornicate with kings by him was seen, the same who with the 7 heads was born, the power and strength from the 10 horns received, so long as virtue to her spouse was pleasing. Ye have made yourselves a god of gold and silver, and from the idolater how differ ye, save that he one and ye 100 worship? Ah, Constantine, of how much ill was mother, not thy conversion, but thy marriage dower, which the first wealthy father took from thee. And while I sang to him such notes as these, either that anger or the conscience stung him, he struggled violently with both his feet. I think, in sooth, that it my leader pleased, with such contented lip he listened ever unto the sound of the true words expressed. Therefore with both his arms he took me up, and when he had me all upon his breast, remounted by the way where he descended. Nor did he tire to have me clasped to him, but bore me to the summit of the arch, which from the fourth dyke to the fifth is passage. There tenderly he laid his burden down, tenderly on the crag, uneven and steep, that would have been hard passage for the goats. Thence was unveiled to me another valley. Canto 20, the fourth Volga, Soothsayers. I'm just reading. By the way, it mentioned Medea and Jason. I was just like, oh, got it. Sure. I see it. I see it. Don't want to, but I see it. And I'm struggling so bad on a lot of these names. I'm like, oh my lord, what did I get myself into? I feel dumb. Yeah. Yes, there is some very heavy name dropping, and I'm having a lot of trouble reading some of them. Please bear with me on this. I appreciate it. Alright, so Canto 20. Of a new plane behooves me to make verses, and give material to the 20th canto of the first song, which is of the submerged. Really? Are you using are you using your personal points? Then it doesn't count. You've done this to me before. It doesn't count if you use the infinite amount of points we have, honey. I was already thoroughly disposed to peer down into the uncovered depth, which bathed itself with tears of agony. And people saw I through the circular valley, silent and weeping, coming at the pace, which in this world the litanies assume. As lower down my sight descended on them, wondrously each one seemed to be distorted, from chin to the beginning of the chest. For towards the reins... Okay. Let me put my... Heh. Thank you. Ah, that feels good. Thank you. Oh. Oh no. Acid. I wish I wasn't lactose intolerant right now. Because that hurts so bad right now. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I mean, we can use some PVC to... Okay. Oh, I need to get some... I need to take more Tums. Excuse me. Alright, where was I at? Okay. Perchance indeed by violence of a policy, someone had been thus wholly turned awry. But I ne'er saw it, nor believed it can be, as God may let thee, reader, gather fruit. From this thy reading, think now for thyself, how could I ever keep my face unmoistened, when our own image near me I beheld, distorted so, the weeping of the eyes, along the fissure bathed the hither parts. Truly I wept, leaning upon a peak of the hard crag, so that my escort said to me, Art thou too of the other fools? Here pity lives, when it is wholly dead, who is a greater reprobate than he, who feels compassion at the doom divine. Lift up thy head, and see for whom opened the earth before the Thebans' eyes, wherefore they all cried, Whither rushest thou? Amphiaraus, why dost leave the war? And downward ceased he not to fall amin, as far as Minos, who lays hold to all. See, he has made a bosom of his shoulders, because he wished to see too far before him. Behind he looks, and backward goes his way. Behold Tiresias, who his semblance changed. Then from a male a female he became, his member being all of them transformed, and afterward was forced to strike once more the two entangled serpents with his rod, ere he could have again his manly plumes. That Aruns is, who backs the other's belly, who in the hills of Luni there were grubs, that Carrerus, Carrer, can you help me please? Can you help me please? It's pronunciation. I am having difficulty. The Carreres? The Carreres, whose houses underneath, among the marbles, white cavern had, for his abode, whence to behold the stars, and see the view was not cut off from him. And she there, who is covering up her breasts, which thou beholdest not, with loosened tresses, and and on that side has all the hairy skin, was Manto, who made quest through many lands, afterwards tarried there where I was born, whereof I would thou list to me a little. After her father had from life departed, and the city of Bacchus had become enslaved, she a long season wandered through the world. Above the beauteous Italy lies a lake, at the Alps' foot, that shuts in Germany, over Tyrol, and has the name Benaco. By 1,000 springs, I think, and more is bathed, twixt Garda and Val Camonica, Penino, with water that grows stagnant in the lake. Midway a place is where the Trentine pastor, and he of Brescia, and the Veronese, might give his blessing if he passed that way. Sitteth, honey, help me with this one. Beschiaria, fortress fair and strong, to front the Brescians and the Bergamasques, where round about the bank descendeth lowest, There of necessity must fall whatever, in bosom of Banaco cannot stay, and grows a river down through the verdant pastures. As soon as the water doth begin to run, no more Banaco it is called, but Mincio, as far as Governo, where it falls in Po. Not far it runs before it finds a plain, in which it spreads itself, and makes it marshy, and oft 'tis wont in September and oft in want in summer to be sickly. Excuse me. Passing that way, the virgin pitiless land in the middle of the fen descries, untilled and naked of inhabitants. Excuse me. There to escape all human intercourse, she with her servants stayed her arts to practice, and lived and left her empty body there. The man thereafter, who were scattered round, collected in that place, which was made strong by the lagoon it had on every side. They built their city over those dead bones, and, after her who first the place selected, Mantua named it without other omen. Its people once within more crowded were, ere the stupidity of Castellodi from Pienamonte had received deceit. Therefore I caution thee, if e'er thou hearest originate my city otherwise, no falsehood may the verity defraud. And I, my master, thy discourses are to me so certain, and so take my faith, that unto me the rest would be spent coals. But tell me of the people who were passing, if any one noteworthy thou beholdest, for only unto that my mind reverts. Then said he to me, he who from the cheek thrusts out his beard upon his swarthy shoulders, was at the time when Greece was void of males, so that there scarce remained one in the cradle, and Ager and with Calchas gave the moment, in Aulis when to sever the first cable. Eriphilus his name was, and so sings my lofty tragedy in some part or other, that knowest thou well, who knowest the whole of it. The next, who was so slender in the flanks, was Michael Scott, who of a variety of magical illusions knew the game. Behold great Guido Bonatti, behold Asdente, who now unto his leather and his thread would fain have struck, but he too late repents. Behold the wretched ones who left the needle.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it,
Really?
I would. But I legally can't.
Thanks.
But I've considered it.
No, eyes did. Yeah. It's a comedy, though. It has a happy ending, apparently. No, that's actually one of the reasons why the author lists.
That's not what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah. One of the things the author said at the beginning is, I called it a comedy because it has a happy ending.
That was basically the difference.
Yeah.
Well,
Behold the wretched ones who left the needle, the spool and rock, and made them fortune tellers. They wrought their magic spells with herb and image. But come now, for already holds the confines of both the hemispheres, and under servile touches the ocean wave, cane and the thorns, and yesternight the moon was round already. Thou shouldst remember, well it not harm thee, from time to time within the forest deep. Thus spake he to me, and we walked the while. Canto 21. The fifth Vulgia. Peculators, the elder of Santa Zita. From bridge to bridge thus, speaking other things, of which my comedy cares not sing, we came along and held the summit, when we halted to behold another fisher, of Maelbolg and other vain lamenters, and I beheld it marvellously dark, as in the arsenal of the Venetians, boils in the winter the tenacious pitch, to smear their unsound vessels o'er again. I hope you guys can hear the stuff because I can't hear anything. So go ahead and play the stuff that makes sound. I can't hear it. I only looked up because I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. Oh my god. For sale they cannot, and instead thereof, one makes his vessel new, and one recocks the ribs of that which many a voyage has made. One hammers at the prow, and one at the stern. This one makes oars, but by the art divine, was boiling down below there a dense pitch, which upon every side the bank belimed. I saw it, but I did not see within it aught but the bubbles that the boiling raised, and all swell up and resubsise compressed. The while below, where fixedly I gazed, my leader, crying out, "Beware, beware!" drew me unto himself from where I stood. Then I turned round, as one who is impatient to see what it behooves him to escape, and whom a sudden terror doth unman, who while he looks delays not his departure, but I beheld behind us a black devil, running along up the crag, approach. Ah, how ferocious was he in his aspect! And now he seemed to me in action ruthless, with open wings and light upon his feet. His shoulders, which sharp-pointed were and high, a sinner did encumber with both haunches. He held clutched the sinews of the feet. From off our bridge he said, "O Malebranche, behold one of the elders of St. Zita, plunge him beneath, before I return for others." Unto that town, which is well furnished with them, all there are barraters, except Bonturo. No, into yes, for money there is changed. He hurled him down and over the hard crag, turned round, and never was a mastiff loosened in so much hurry to pursue a thief. The other sank and rose again face downward, but the demons under cover of the bridge cried, "Here to the Santo Volto has no place. Here swims one other than in the Circeo. Therefore, if for our gaffs thou wishest not, do not uplift thyself above the pitch." They seized him then with more than 100 rakes. They said, "It here behooves thee to dance covered, that if thou canst, thou secretly mayest pilfer. Not otherwise the cooks their scullions make, immerse into the middle of the cauldron the meat with hooks, so that it may not float." Said the good master to me, "That it be not apparent thou art here, crouch thyself down behind a jag, that thou mayest have some screen. And for no outrage that is done to me, be thou afraid, because these things I know, for once before I was in such a scuffle." Then he passed on beyond the bridge's head, and as upon the sixth bank he arrived, need was for him to have a steadfast front, with the same fury and the same uproar, as dogs leap out upon a mendicant, who on a sudden begs where he stops, They issued from beneath the little bridge, and turned against him all their grappling irons. But he cried out, "Be none of you malignant. Before those hooks of yours lay hold of me, let one of you step forward who may hear me, and then take counsel as to grappling me." They all cried, "Let Malakota go." Whereat one started, and the rest stood still, and he came to him, saying, "What avails it? Thinkest thou, Malakota, to behold me advanced into this place?" My master said, "Safe hitherto from all your skill of fence, without the wall divine and fate auspicious? Let me go on, for it in heaven is willed, and I another show this savage road." Then was his arrogance so humbled in him that he let fall his grapnel at his feet, and the others said, "Now strike him not." And unto my guide, "O thou who sittest among the splinters of the bridge, crouch down, securely now return to me again." Wherefore I started and came swiftly to him, and all the devils forward thrust themselves, so that I feared that they would not keep their compact. And thus beheld I once afraid the soldiers, who issued under safeguard from Caprona, seeing themselves among so many foes. Close did I press myself with all my person, beside my leader, and turned not mine eyes, but off their countenance, which was not good. They lowered their rakes, and, "Wilt thou have me hit him?" they said to one another, "on the rump?" and answered, "Yes, see how thou nick him with it." But the same demon who was holding a parley with my conductor turned him very quickly, and said, be quiet, Scarmilong." Then said to us, you can no further go forward upon this crag, because is lying all shattered at the bottom the sixth arch. And if it still doth please you to go onward, pursue your way along this rock. Near is another crag that yields a path. Yesterday, 5 hours later than this hour, 1,266 years were complete, and here the way was broken. I send in the direction some of mine, to see if any doth err himself. Go ye with them, for they will not be vicious. Step forward, Alicino and Calcabrina, he began to cry out, and thou, Cagnazzo and Barbaricina, do thou guide the 10. Come forward, Libia Libia Cocoa, and I need help with this one, sweetie. Dragonazzo and Seriato and Graphia Cane and Farfarello and Mad Rubicante. Search ye all round about the boiling pitch. Let these be safe as far as the next crag, that all unbroken passes o'er the dens. O me, what is it, master, that I see? Pray let us go, I said, without an escort, if thou knowest how, since I myself I ask none. If thou art as observant as thy wont is, dost thou not see that they do gnash their teeth, and with their brows are threatening woe to us? And he to me, I will not have thee fear, let them gnash on, according to their fancy, because they do it for those boiling wretches. Along the left-hand dike they wheeled about, but first had each one thrust his tongue between his teeth toward their leader for a signal, and he had made a trumpet of his rump. I am going to call it on this one and pick up on the 22nd canto on next Tuesday. So next Tuesday I actually should be finishing Inferno. And depending on if I read a second day next week or if I wait until the following Tuesday, I will be starting Purgatorio. I believe it's Purgatorio's as after Inferno. Yeah. So next Tuesday I will be finishing Inferno. So let me see, do we have somebody to raid? Twitch. I wonder if Moo's still streaming. He is not, but Jenga's still streaming. Jenga TV. Oh, he's doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. And remember, you guys get to pick what I'm going to be reading. There's actually, if you join the Discord, thanks, guys. In the Discord, we actually have a section called it's the stories, and in the stories section, I have a list of stories that I can read. And under suggestions, put whatever you want to hear me read. And whichever one gets picked is what I will read after I'm done with the Divine Comedy. So, let's see. Boop. We're going to be raiding Jenga. And he's actually another fellow Fae. He is I think it's a Kusith? Kite Sith? He looks like a kitty. Anyway, so let's go ahead and raid him and everybody be friendly and say hi.